So there you are, minding your own business, walking a few miles to go to church because Christianity just isn't very popular in the region, and suddenly you're stopped by someone. You look at them, kind of annoyed that they're making your journey longer, but you see a beautiful woman, seemingly radiating light from all around her. Suddenly, your annoyance disappears as you hear her speak to you. She tells you who she is, and she tells you what she wants. But you're just standing there in awe, thinking, is this really happening? Is this happening to me? Well, it was really happening, and that is exactly what happened to Saint Juan Diego. Howdy all, and welcome back to another episode of the Sanctified Podcast, the show where we explore the stories of various saints throughout history and learn about what they did and how we came to recognize them as saints today. Today, we're going to explore the life of Saint Juan Diego, the first indigenous American saint. Saint Juan Diego was born in 1474 in Cuautitlan, or what is today Mexico City, and at the time, Aztec religion and culture was fairly predominant still. And his name at birth was Cuauhtlatoatzin, which meant the talking eagle in the native Nahuatl language. He was raised by his uncle starting at a young age because his father actually passed away early in Juan's life. His uncle tried to raise him with the Aztec pagan religion because that was just the common religion, and everybody was practicing the Aztec pagan religion in the area. But this religion never really clicked with Juan, and he actually had heard about Christianity and he felt drawn towards it ever since he was young. But it took nearly 50 years when, in 1524, a group of 12 Franciscan missionaries arrived, and Juan and his wife, Maria Lucia, paid them a visit. It didn't take long before those two asked to be baptized, and they were among the first people in the area to seek baptism. Juan was almost 50 years old before he was baptized. He held his faith so dear, and he was so patient for his opportunity to come. It's impressive dedication, to say the least. The couple was very devout, and Juan would walk as long and as far as he had to get religious instruction from the missionaries at Tlatelolco. I don't know about you, but I don't even walk to church nowadays, even though it's probably like a 20-minute walk or less. It's literally like right up the street from me, but I still drive. On December 9th, 1531, so a few years down the road, Juan was excitedly on his way to Mass for the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, as he had done in years past. But while walking there, he was stopped by a beautiful woman, seemingly surrounded in light without explanation. In Juan's native language, she introduced herself, and she said that she was the ever-perfect Holy Mary, who has the honor to be the mother of the true God. And she also told him that she was the mother to everyone, and she asked him to make a request to the local bishop on her behalf. But why ask Juan? He was just an ordinary dude, and he did try to tell her as much, but things work in mysterious ways, and there's always a reason. Mary gave Juan the task of asking the bishop to build a chapel in her honor on Tepeyac Hill, where a pagan temple once stood, but was now in disrepair. Obviously, Juan did as she asked. I mean, wouldn't you? But when Bishop Juan de Moraga heard about the encounter and what the request was, he did express some doubts, but he asked for time to ponder everything. On his way back home, feeling somewhat defeated because of the bishop's response, Mary appeared to him again. He told her that he had failed her. He tried to convince her that he just wasn't the right person for the job, but she insisted that he indeed was the right person. The next day, Juan went to Bishop Juan de Zamoraga again and repeated his request. This time, the bishop asked for proof that the encounter was real and that it was truly the Virgin Mary appearing from heaven. How was Juan going to do that? What kind of proof could he offer? So, Juan Diego walked back to Tepeyac in hopes that Mary would once again appear to him, and she did. He told her what Bishop Zamoraga said, and her response was that tomorrow, December 11th, she would provide him with the proof. As it would turn out, Juan Diego's uncle became terribly ill that morning, and Juan had to stay and help take care of him. So, the next day, December 12th, Juan went back out to meet with the bishop. But he felt ashamed at missing his meeting with Mary, and he just wanted to go find the priest to talk to get somebody to come back for his uncle. But Mary still appeared before him on his new route and asked what he was doing. He explained that his uncle was sick. He explained everything that happened. He apologized, and he said that he would be right back after he brought a priest to his uncle. In his native language again, she asked, "Am I not here, I who am your mother?" She promised that his uncle would be cured, and then she asked Juan to go up the hill and collect the flowers growing there. Juan did as she asked and picked some of the beautiful blooming flowers, which was actually kind of a surprise because this hill hadn't been known to be so covered in flowers before. It was a pretty rocky hill. He filled his cloak, or his tilma, with flowers, and he returned to Mary. She then arranged the flowers in his cloak and told him that would be the sign the bishop needed. Somewhat confused about how a few flowers could prove anything, because they're just ordinary old flowers, he did as she asked, and he went to Bishop Juan de Zumarraga, careful not to disturb the carefully arranged flowers. When he arrived, he told the bishop that he had his proof, and he opened his cloak. At first, Juan Diego just kind of stood there and watched as the flowers fell away, not really sure what to expect. What was the proof going to be? As the flowers fell, the bishop's face turned from skeptical to absolute shock and awe. Within the cloak was a perfect image of the Virgin Mary. That was all the proof the bishop needed. He knew Juan Diego was telling the truth. When Juan Diego returned home, he awoke the next morning to find his uncle totally healed from his illness. And his uncle explained that he had been visited by the Virgin Mary too. And she told him about building the church on Tepeyac Hill as well. She also added that she wanted to be known there with the title of Guadalupe. News of the miracle spread quickly, but Juan Diego remained a humble man. The church was built on Tepeyac Hill, and the bishop moved the cloak to be displayed there for all to see. Multiple miracles have occurred around the cloak since then. The first of which is perhaps the most incredible. A man was shot in the throat with an arrow, not in combat, but in celebration. I guess somebody was just really excited and accidentally shot an arrow off and nearly killed this poor man. Well, he was brought to the cloak, lay down in front of it, and the people prayed for his healing. And it actually didn't take long before the man got back up and was totally healed. Juan Diego moved into a small hermitage on Tepeyac Hill, and he lived there the rest of his life. He prayed every day, and he spent every moment working in service to the Lord or thinking about what else he could do for the Lord. 17 years to the day after the first apparition, Juan Diego passed away, December 9th, 1548. Another miraculous event from the cloak is that during the Mexican revolutions in the 20th century, people attempted to destroy the church and the artifact along with it. And they succeeded in destroying the church all right. With a massive explosion, nothing was left. Not the walls, not the altars, no stone carvings or statues, no seats, nothing. Except the cloak. The glass protecting the cloak was totally untouched, as if protected from some divine hand. And to this day, the cloak remains one of the most visited Catholic relics and is still perfectly preserved at the Basilica of Guadalupe on Tepeyac Hill. 5 centuries have come and gone, but the cloak remains. That is evidence in itself just how special this cloak is. Millions of people visit it every year, seeking to be healed, trying to find guidance. And it never ceases to put people in awe. Now, I should include that there were some arguments about the accuracy of who Juan Diego was. And this did end up delaying his canonization. But I don't think they're very strong arguments, though, because they simply said, or at least the strongest arguments they did have, said that if he was a real person, surely there'd be more records of him closer to his own lifetime. Instead, the earliest record we have are from almost a century later. But to say the lack of evidence is evidence that he wasn't real is kind of preposterous if you ask me. Anywho, some wanted more proof before Juan Diego could be canonized, and that proof was already in progress on the day of his beatification. The very same day Juan Diego was beatified, Juan Silva, high on drugs, stabbed himself and jumped off a balcony. And he did this all in front of his own mother. Immediately, she called for an ambulance and he was brought to a hospital. She prayed for Juan Diego's intercession and asked for him to talk to the Virgin Mary in heaven and save her son. Well, miraculously, the stab wound and head injuries Juan Silva sustained healed unbelievably quickly, and he was discharged far sooner than any doctors expected. His mother's prayers were very clearly answered. Medical professors could only describe it as unheard of, amazing, and inconceivable. It was a veritable miracle. Juan Diego was beatified May 6, 1990, by Pope John Paul II, and canonized by Pope John Paul II on July 31st, 2002. His feast day is celebrated December 9th, and he is the patron saint of indigenous people. Saint Juan Diego is the first indigenous American Catholic saint. And there are actually a few movies and documentaries made about him. So if you're still interested in learning more and you're more of a visual learner, I encourage you to go check some of them out. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. So what are your thoughts on Saint Juan Diego? What are your thoughts about his encounters with the Virgin Mary? I hope you found his story interesting, and I look forward to learning your thoughts. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, you can subscribe, download the episode, like, comment, share it with your friends, or send me a suggestion on a saint that I can check out by emailing me at thesanctifiedpodcast@proton.me. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Podbean, and more. Just search for The Sanctified Podcast on whatever service you use, and I should have a few episodes uploaded. Take care, and have a wonderful day.